Before Mr. Chroocini joined Napoli, he almost pulled the impossible with Torino. Torino were the best Italian club in the 40s. Sadly, the Supercut air disaster on May 4th, 1949 wiped the vast majority of the side. 27 years after the tragedy, Torino would win their final Serie A title in 1976. There were multiple goals when Chroocini initially joined, and a long-term one was winning that mentioned Scudetto. What a story that would have been. The side were predicted to finish in 10th and had little to no money to make transfers. Tactics wise, we needed to go Italian, not by shape, but by roles. We got a regista, doubled the mezzala, and up top, we were using a trequartista. With the side having a lot of midfielders and a real lack of wingers, I felt this 4-1-3-2 shape was the best. With victories in the opening 2 matches, I was excited for the fixture versus Napoli.
All for one.
Well, that result shouldn't matter later on. Roma followed. And saying they started the season poorly would be an understatement. Of course, Jose Mourinho is the manager, and it seemed like he would get his first victory against us.
Very, very nice.
We couldn't let that man become smug in our house, so we had to get adventurous. In the 75th minute, a surprisingly nice finish from Bremer arrived. A couple moments later, Breclo came on and tapped home a rebound for the winner, handing a loss to Mourinho.
Look, the referee has to explain.
2 more losses arrived at the special one's doorstep, and his side really struggled for results, as in late November, he was not sacked.
In the morning,
Roma decided to hand him a vacation for 7 months. His substitute manager for the time being, Roberto Mancini. Wait, what? Italy did not finish on top of their World Cup qualifying group, and I guess Mancini saw his future written in the stars as he quit. I sent my application for the job, but they chose Claudio Ranieri.
Dilly din, dilly dong, come on!
Returning to our season, late disappointment led to a draw with Genoa, followed by a satisfying comeback to draw Inter. Then arrived the first Derby della Mole, aka the Turin Derby, which has been dominated by Juventus. Torino haven't defeated the old ladies since 2015, and realistically, a draw would suffice away from home. That was the case, but for some reason, a certain part of my brain told me to go bold and attack for the last 10 minutes. We immediately lost the ball. Juventus goes down the pitch, Rabiot shoots, and with the aid of my keeper's arms not working, Rabiot scores. We then somehow lost to Cagliari right after. I don't want to talk about it. During my hiring process, I had the choice between Torino and Fiorentina, and thank goodness I chose Torino, as La Viola were in the relegation zone. At this point, I decided to make the pressing forward on support rather than defend, as Belotti only had 3 goals at this point. I also made Brecalo my trequartista, as Sanabria wasn't cutting it. It may have been genius, or Fiorentina down on their luck, as Brecalo got a brace and Belotti scored 2. Following that, Fiorentina sacked Italiano with everything looking Wait, what the heck? Actually, Italiano got the same treatment as Mourinho. It's very common for teams in Italy to sack their manager just to rehire them at a later point. Trust me. Juric was the substitute and steadied the ship by the end of the season. 3 more victories arrived, including an important one versus Lazio and a Brecalo hat-trick against Sampdoria. The campaign was going immaculate, Juventus were crap, and we were pushing ourselves into not only a Champions League spot, but becoming title contenders. AC Milan were the next opponents, but could we show that we were the real deal? No. Zlatan off a corner, and this lucky deflection gave Milan a 2-0 victory. To be fair, they somehow chalked this off for offside. You tell me. Despite that roadblock, we won our next 3 matches, and we're in 4th place halfway through the season. 6 points above Inter, who ended up sacking Inzaghi. But you know this story already. Most importantly, 13 points above Juventus. Post a quiet January window, we went on an incredible run of form, going 13 undefeated, including 11 wins. Brecalo and Belotti were popping off. They were scoring goal after goal as we were getting through each opponent. That included, due to AFCON, an African-less victory versus Napoli and a 3-2 triumph against Inter at the San Siro. We did draw Mancini's Roma, which was kind of annoying because the equalizer occurred late, but I didn't manage the game well in the last 5 minutes. One massive win that would emphasize Torino as Turin's biggest club was, of course, in the Derby della Mole at home. Juventus took an early lead, which was cancelled out by Belotti 6 minutes later. Then in the 54th, Izzo, who was playing at right back for the injured Singo,
don't give him a red. Don't give him a red.
got sent off. I kept the two strikers, made a few tactical tweaks, and took Lukic off for Aina, who probably should have started. A few moments later, he showed why.
But Belotti! Oh my gosh! Belotti out of nothing!
However, that wasn't enough.
Breclo in behind potentially. Oh my gosh! Pobega!
Juventus were so crap. Just look at this. The funny thing is that they didn't sack Allegri. No Juventus fan liked him, but things began happening at the club, and out of all the people who left, he actually remained. Nevertheless, thanks to Allegri's anti-football tactics, we finished above Juventus. Let's talk about Pobega though. Not only was that strike goal of the month, it also won the seasonal award. I played him in the center mid on attack, leading to a lot of chances, but for the longest time, he would miss some easy one-on-ones. Then, during the final stretch of the campaign, he would become a monster, finishing with 10 along with 9 assists in the league. The other midfielders did an okay job, with Ricci the Regista being the best of the rest. The match that ended our undefeated run in Serie A was against Atalanta. We were winning 1-0 thanks to Breclo, but as Atalanta were piling on the pressure, they received a penalty from somewhere and scored a second in the 81st minute. Despite that, BBP stepped up with a great victory against Fiorentina, putting us on top for the first time this season. While our assistant was more infatuated by Lukic, we genuinely had a real chance at this title. And with Lazio next, could we propel ourselves even further? I changed my tactics to the classic 4-2-2, but it was made too late. We scored 3, but alas, the result was 4-3, increasing the intrigue on this race. 2 wins followed, blowing out Udinese and a triumph against Gattuso's Sampdoria, where Lukic and Sanabria scored late on. First to 6 were separated by 5 points. We were tied with Napoli, behind them not on goal difference, but head-to-head goal difference. That 3-0 result may be important. Lazio and AC Milan were only 2 points behind, and we had the Rossoneri next. The half had limited intrigue, until we got closer to the 45th minute.
Oh, Frank, the tank Cassie is off. Milan are down to 10 men.
At the San Siro, we had the opportunity to upset the odds, but time was going by fast.
But will we be able to find an opportunity? Ricci. Oh, Samuel Ricci! From distance, 1-0 Torino over AC Milan.
Pobega would add another against his parent club, as AC Milan were kicked out of this title race. It was down to us, Napoli, and Lazio. If the club from Naples are victorious in their remaining 3 matches, they'd win their first Scudetto since Maradona. We needed to triumph in all 3, but it may not be enough. However, Lazio is the other contender, and they play Napoli on the final day. Wins came from all sides on match day 36, leading to the penultimate day of the season with our fixture versus Venezia. Mandragora with a brilliant strike put us 1-0 up, Breclo would find the back of the net in the 50th minute, and Bremer would score a header, giving us a 3-0 lead with a half hour left. Singo then scored in his own net. That seemed highly unnecessary since there was no pressure, but that's fine. Venezia were barely threatening and they just made it 3-2 on 0.18 expected goals. After that, I made several subs, and in the 90th, I made another to kill the clock. Then...
What? Highlight? Weird feeling about this. Please be offside. What the heck? What? This game was over. Oh my gosh. 3 goals on 0.38 expected goals?
With that, we were 2 points behind Napoli and tied with Lazio. Now you might think that there's still a chance, since those two play each other. Nope. Napoli are champions with a win and a draw due to head-to-head. If Lazio triumphs, they earn the Scudetto since our head-to-head is equal and they have a superior goal difference. That only mattered if we won, which we didn't. Maurizio Sarri lifted the league title in Naples. With Lazio, you can't make this shit up. Now, if Mr. Chroocini stayed with Torino, I'm sure glory would have been achieved. But in this reality, he left and took a year off. In his mind, he couldn't do much more. During his sabbatical, Napoli won the Scudetto for the first time since 1990. With Spalletti leaving on an actual high, rumors began circulating that Rudy Garcia, of all people, was going to be his heir. We can't let that happen. So Chroocini threw his name in, and De Laurentiis appointed him as manager. Napoli's team are still strong favorites to retain the title. They had last season's MVP Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, a strong midfield with the likes of Lobotka, Anguissa, and Zielinski, plus the league's best striker, Victor Osimhen. Unfortunately, Kim Min-jae left a huge gap in the defense, so the first piece of business was to get rid of another. Juan Jesus was let go for $5 million, and with other exits, Napoli had a decent transfer budget.
37 million euros on the table.
With only Ostigard, Ramani, and Natun at center back, we decided to bring in Jean-Claire Todibo to Naples for an excessive fee. But what a player he is. Other business included Mitya Ilenic arriving on a free and Pablo Barrios coming from Atletico Madrid for $7 million. Starting off with a 4-3-3 because for some reason that was a requirement for the job, the Serie A campaign began brilliantly, in big part to Victor Osimhen. He won the August Player of the Month with 5 goals in 2 matches. That reminds me. We won our first 6 matches, which was rounded off by a 1-0 victory over Juventus. With 5 clean sheets, people were already forgetting who Kim Min-jae was. While it was going to be impossible to maintain this form with European football and more difficult opponents approaching, a 1-1 draw to Cagliari wasn't ideal. We've still scored in every single match this season, but with a home fixture to Fiorentina, Biraghi pulled this off to take a 1-0 lead. Then our team got a hit of amnesia, as he almost did it again a few minutes later. Our effort to get an equalizer came to no avail, as Nzola tapped in a second at the end. Our first loss, which didn't affect our position. After the international break,
Alright, here we go. The Chroocini derby.
Grande Torino. There were only a handful of players that he recognized, like Richie the Regista and 2022 Serie A Defender of the Year, Buongiorno. With the match beginning with long shots on both sides hitting the iron, it wouldn't be shocking if one ends up going in. Unfortunately, we deflected their next attempt into our own net. The further this stayed 1-0, the more worried I got. And in the second half, Duvan Zapata made it 2. On the brink of defeat, I decided to bring back Chroocini's favorite formation, the 4-1-3-2 Italian style. Could we salvage this with 35 minutes left?
Oh, this
would have been funny if this wasn't offside. However, we did respond with Zielinski off the bench, getting us within 1. The Pole is the most talented midfielder at the club, but with him deciding to consider his options at the end of his contract, that brought forth some memories for De Laurentiis.
On our team having a great season,
I couldn't start this man for the rest of the season. I will not go into what he said about Polish footballers though. Regardless, Zielinski was still useful off the bench and inspired others to kick on. This included Raspadori, who Chroocini always admired. The reborn trequartista would equalize the encounter. It was in our hands, and with 10 to go,
finds Oliveira, cross in, Osimhen,
Celebrating in front of the Torino fans was a bit excessive, but this comeback win made me switch to my bread and butter, temporarily. Before worrying about that, we had the Champions League. Napoli had a frustrating quarterfinal exit last campaign, but that's the past. This year, the group was difficult, but manageable. A 3-0 win over Shakhtar Donetsk opened things up in spite of a 78th minute red card. Then Arsenal was looking like a victory thanks to Osimhen. But late on, Tomigotsu went on an incredible run, and thankfully, the back-to-back encounters with Real Sociedad ended the same, winning 2-1 due to Osimhen and Simeone, grabbing 1 in each. Another 3-0 win arrived versus Shakhtar, meaning all we had to do was draw Arsenal on the final match day to finish on top. On the brink of halftime, it was looking great. Tomiyasu's pass was intercepted, and Osimhen immediately found Raspadori for the lead. We were playing well, but sometimes that isn't enough. A corner not long after the interval saw Martinelli wide open, and his crap shot deflected off Todibo. Arsenal began threatening, and off another corner, they retained possession from the second ball, leading to Kai Havertz scoring his first of the season. Tables have turned, and Murray clearly gave up for their third. So we finish in second and have to play Bayern in the round of 16 later on. During that whole period, Serie A was quite iffy. In 5 matches, only 2 were won. There was a fun, yet tough encounter with Inter, which saw Lautaro find the game winner. Lazio ended in a stalemate, while the Salernitana match was a joke. It was 2-2 until the 85th minute, where Giovanni Simeone tapped in his brace for the lead. Unfortunately, Salernitana equalized literally 60 seconds later. Bologna? I choose not to say anything. This December period was a pain. We were suffering several injuries, and this one to Lobotka was the straw that broke the camel's back. The 4-3-2 wasn't manageable with a lack of proper and fit midfielders, so we reverted to the 4-3-3 and gave ADL a call. De Laurentiis, hello, yes. So about Zielinski not starting games? Piss off. Against AC Milan, it appeared my phone call was justified, as Zielinski gave us the lead. It seemed like a dessert win was on the menu, but then came my throw-in anxiety. I've seen so many chances created from them, and Loftus-Cheek made sure that continued. Great goal to be fair, but really frustrating. Finally, trying to trash talk Mourinho only resulted in another 1-1 draw. There were a few wins in the month, but by the start of the new year, Juventus were 4 points ahead.
Supercut.
Supercopa? Played in Saudi Arabia? We got to the final, but got smoked by Inter.
Non ha senso!
Florenti's big competition was happening this year, which meant Osimhen and Anguissa were gone. It sucked to lose the Nigerian. The Cameroonian was a bigger issue. With Lobotka still injured, our best defensive midfielder was now Kayuste. So I changed my formation again and dropped the defensive midfielder to center back, going with a 3-4-3. The tinkering paid off with wins over Fiorentina, Cagliari, and Inter. The latter was gigantic thanks to Juventus losing consecutive games, resulting in Napoli's return to first place. Regarding Anguissa, he never arrived from AFCON because Newcastle bought him for what ended up being 74 million euros. With an increased budget, we signed Ali Al-Musrati for 30 million from Braga, then some loans. Outgoing was LG Velmas, who pissed me off with the complaints about getting a contract and then playing like crap on the pitch. Off to the old lady, where he damaged his spine. The loans arriving were Ryan Gravenberg for an inexpensive fee and Tommaso Baldanzi from Empoli, who I plan on buying in the summer. However, this man's debut was one to remember. Once Atalanta made it 2-1 in the Coppa Italia quarters, the ball Dawn was subbed on, and 16 seconds from kickoff, the Italian equalized. In added time, he danced on his opponents and hit the post. Moving into the extra periods, he acted as playmaker, receiving the ball and finding Raspadori for the game winner. A brilliant debut.
Tell me who's a Don, tell me who's a Don.
The home fixture versus Torino was up, and Juric planned to get some revenge over my disrespect. He did that by exploiting a big weakness. Matias Oliveira not being able to prevent crosses or shots. Villanova was cooking me a roast dinner, but we had Osimhen back from AFCON scoring a hat-trick. 3 goals should be enough to win, but no. In the last 10, Buongiorno equalized from a corner. Then, in the 93rd minute. That wouldn't be the only last-minute loss. We entered Mourinho's domain, and his intentions were humiliation, which somehow happened. A draw to Empoli prior to Bayern put us down to 4th. It's always nerve-wracking playing a big team like Bayern so quickly in the knockouts. However, their star man Harry Kane got injured in the first half, and their best chance was this free kick. We had more possession and shots, and in the 54th minute, we also had more red cards. Our great plan was destroyed. At least, that's what I thought. Yet, Bayern were not threatening, and we had a man who never got a true opportunity to shine in Munich. He was already having a good game, but as I was hoping for a 0-0 draw, Ryan Gravenberg did one better and made it 1-0 Napoli. He wasn't finished. Oh wait, Gravenberg? Oh my god! Gravenberch with a brace! A brace against his former club gave us a huge advantage. That result took us out of our rut, with Sassuolo and Frosinone being defeated. Then, as we were on our way to a 2-0 victory versus Bologna, our starting keeper Murray got injured in-game. He's been injured on a few occasions, but hopefully this isn't too bad. He's out for the Bayern tie. The universe continued to take the piss at me as the day before the second leg, our hero Gravenberch suffered a groin strain. Plus, we were missing Di Lorenzo for obvious reasons, resulting in this lineup, and yes, that's Golini in net. He doesn't have the best reputation, but with Kvaratskhelia making a 3-0 in aggregate in the 26th minute, I let out a sigh of relief. What the hell is that pass, Politano? How is Muller outrunning you, Ostigard? It's fine. Alright, Harry Kane is back from injury. A 3-0 advantage should keep you safe for a while, but we clearly didn't get the memo as Muller equalized it in the 43rd minute. I realized changes were a must at halftime.
I was hoping I could make changes at halftime.
Farah decided to make this pass. Why are you passing there? And Bayern goes down, finding Rafael Guerrero, who's left unopposed, scoring his first of the season. 4-3 on aggregate. We shot ourselves in the foot on multiple occasions, but Osimhen leveled things up after the interval. Full time was near. Once again, we made a melonhead play by making a suicide pass, intercepted by Kim Min-jae, who... Thank God for that. We had extra time, and this frustrating encounter was 1/2 away from penalties. Unfortunately, we hadn't learned from our errors, with Nathan giving it away. Bayern countered, and Musiala's shot was deflected to Kimmich, for some reason was all the way up here and not offside. His goal was the winner, and it only gets worse from here. We're top of Serie A, but that wouldn't last long after getting destroyed by AC Milan 4-1. We got revenge in the first leg of the Coppa Italia semi-final, mainly due to Osimhen scoring 4. Plus, we earned 2 more victories in the league, keeping us first by 1 point. This was the remaining schedule, and there were a lot of tough games. Udinese to start would be a good
only
warm-up.
non-Japanese show.
We drew 1-1. It's never a dull moment with Atalanta, with an early goal from your boy, Osimhen. Atalanta's Toure was causing us problems though, doing incredibly well to find himself this shot. Instead of adapting, we let him do it again moments later, and he made no mistake. We, on the other hand, continued to make them, with Raspadori's brainless pass leading to Lookman taking the lead. Focusing on that pass. Why do this? Why? It's frustrating, but Atalanta weren't perfect either, as the Bocca's strike somehow finds the back of the net. At halftime, it was noticeable that Kvara wasn't having the best game. His season has been tough, with injuries having halted any sort of momentum. However, when this guy's on it, he's damn good. 3-2, and now our whole team was performing. Except for the center backs, who once again couldn't deal with Toure. Like I said, 3 goals should be enough for a win, but clearly, we need to score 5 because Atalanta stole a victory with Timber's long shot. Could we have a calmer game in the second leg of the Coppa Italia? No, not at all. I instead lost my mind even more. Raspadori flopped like a fish for their first, Calabria equalized the aggregate with this ridiculous strike, and Chukwueze wasn't tracked for the third. I switched to the 4-1-3-2, questioning my life, just to win a penalty to restore the balance. What did the second half have in store? Loftus-Cheek scoring. And now I begin blaming Murray, who was on a 5.8 match rating. I'd rather play Golini now. Thankfully, the bald one with hair equaled the aggregate, pushing us to extra time again. Let this clown fiesta continue because out of nothing, Noah Holm somehow pulled this out of his ass. Am I managing a football game or playing Ultimate Team on steroids? With 5 to go, we went full psychopath with this formation. And you know what? It worked. Great play by Zielinski in the 120th minute pushed us to penalties. For a neutral, an 8-8 aggregate must have been fun.
Fun.
In the 4th round, Chroocini hit the post, meaning it was sudden death from round 5. Florenzi tucked his, and Raspadori was stopped by Magnon.
Fun! I'm having fun!
Prior to Lazio, my assistant recommended a team meeting. He suggested to focus on our recent good form. Okay? it actually worked. Morale improved, but telling defenders that they were hitting the right form certainly translated to Lazio by allowing Immobile a first half hat-trick. Another loss, which means that a bad result versus Juventus will rule us out of the title. The match was slow, but Juventus didn't have a single shot for almost an hour. Oh, what is that pass? What the? That loss placed us 8 points behind them with 3 to go. And after a 3-3 draw with Hellas Verona, we could legitimately miss out on the Champions League. Thankfully, we won our penultimate match, while AC Milan and Fiorentina did not. We're still in Europe's elite, but with a lot of signings not panning out and our disastrous back line, something needs to be done. Worst of all, Osimhen will not renew, meaning our top scorer will likely be gone next season. Finally, Juventus won the league, meaning Elmas got a medal. I'm gonna lose my mind. With 92 million euros given, plus Osimhen's 100 million release clause being matched by Arsenal, could I retool Napoli? This ain't no rebuild. In our first Serie A match, it seems so, as the Osimhen money was covered by the first 2 goals. The pacey Karim Konate arrived from RB Salzburg for 20 million, and last season's MVP, Nico Gonzalez, came for 75 big ones. People were hating, but he was going to deliver. Someone else who was delivering was Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, aka Kvaradona.
Look at Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, one of the best talents around.
Not only did he get 2 assists, but he won a penalty and slotted it in. The scoring was wrapped up by Karim Konate's brace, which was assisted by the bald Don, Baldanzi, who returned for 25 million and still had hair. An emphatic start, but there were more transfers. We ended up selling over 100 million after Osimhen, which included Leo Ostigard to Bayern, Elgif Almas to Atalanta, Nathan on loan to Palmeiras, where he stayed permanently, plus some guys who didn't play at all. Also, Nico Gonzalez's transfer got covered thanks to Qing Dynasty General Zhao Wei, who convinced Fiorentina to buy him for 25 million. For ourselves, we basically brought in a new back line. From France, Maxime Esteve arrived from relegated Montpellier, and left back Melvin Bard from Nice. Michael Coyote continued the Fiorentina raid to be our future right back. Finally, Todibo's new partner would be Antonio Silva from Benfica. 64 million. But surely a better option than Inácio.
Players the streets won't forget. A subcategory of footballer that describes someone who had an outstanding amount of technique that was loved and adorned by a certain group of footballing fans. Maybe for being a one-season wonder, or for a certain goal or a certain amount of skill and flair.
With a handful of clean sheets, plus Kfar's incredible start to the campaign, it felt like we made the right choices. Although, I think the free transfer of Guido Rodriguez was huge. He might not always get the best match ratings, but his ability to protect the defense was something we missed last year. Following, on one fine morning, I wondered how Ryan Gravenberch was doing. So, I checked Liverpool, found out that Klopp left, and Unai Emery was in charge. In my stunned state, I checked their tactics, only to see DMs being played, and a certain midfielder available for loan. Dominik Szoboszlai. This was an unbelievable player to bring in, but he was getting benched by the bald Don. Baldanzi was undroppable, assisting Nico Gonzalez's brace versus Torino, grabbing another at Salernitana, along with the game winner. Then, with Roma and Mourinho, we continued our gentlemanly exchange. I said Roma was boring, and Mourinho responded in the coldest of fashions.
You want a piece of me, you trash?
Who are you calling trash?
I'll call you whatever the I want to call you.
He may have a point, but on the football pitch, Roma were frozen like statues as Baldanzi's incredible vision found a Nico Gonzalez opener. Then, I decide to out Mourinho. In the tail end, we won the ball back on 2 separate occasions, as Konate grabbed not just 1, but 2 in a span of a minute, with the latter assisted by Baldanzi. 2 more assists arrived from the Don, and while one of them came in a disappointing draw at Bologna, the former Empoli man, who was our only loss in the league so far, had 10 assists in 12 matches. Could he break Papu Gomez's record of 16?
Bacon. Pero boludo.
To sum up the Serie A talk, Szoboszlai finally showed up with goal contributions with a brace versus Lazio. A good start to the campaign, with Napoli tied for first, and some great individual performances from several. One season of Champions League group stages, and poof, it's gone. In 2024, UEFA decided to change the format for, I'm sure, good reasons. Our set of fixtures saw us face a bunch of former friends. It began with Arsenal, where we saw Osimhen in red. The opening goal made me realize this wasn't going to go my way. Of course, Osimhen also contributed with a little help from Murray. Not a great start. Next up, we found Jurgen Klopp as he was managing Real Madrid. Szoboszlai was waiting for this, as the German gave him one start at Liverpool. He would do this, and it must have been difficult to not do the Luis Suarez celebration. After that ended in a draw, we had a fun encounter with Celtic that included a Nico Gonzalez hat-trick. We then faced Anguissa and Newcastle. However, unlike Osimhen's team, the Toon laid an egg with Nico and Kvaradona scoring in the opening 16 minutes. Then we somehow lost to Dortmund with a late corner barfest. Barcelona in December saw the last of our former friends, Zielinski, who decided to join the Catalan club for less money than what he was making here. Bro, you asked for almost 200k. Barca played this monstrosity of a 4-2-2, which clearly confused us for the winner. Nothing could get done, and Zielinski would step onto the pitch. Cheers or jeers? You can decide. Now, I'm not a big fan of the 2 extra games in January. Luckily for us, we dealt with Crvena Zvezda and Galatasaray to finish in 14th, taking on PSV later on. Meanwhile, in Serie A, Szoboszlai began to show up. He scored 5 goals in a time spanning from Atalanta in December to the middle of January, in which we were victors in all 5. The team did run into problems, like losing to Frosinone. An unhappy Ramani will get sent off 17 seconds into the second half. It wasn't his first mistake, as he nearly cost us a result versus Catanzaro, who some would say is the Luton of Italy. Luckily, we won. Nevertheless, that didn't stop me from selling his ass, but the Kosovan failed upwards in a 50 million transfer to Real Madrid. Other winter exits include Al Musrati loaned to Marseille because of his lack of minutes, Mario Rui to West Ham as he was stealing a living, and Jens Kayuste to Roma, after we drew Roma 2-0.
You are helping them?
It was decent money for a player who wasn't doing much for us. Don't you fear, Swedes. We brought in one from Hellas Verona named Hien. I'm just gonna call him Hiei though, since I've been reading Yu Yu Hakusho and the names are basically the same.
Perhaps he's a fool.
Excess funds were still available, so I spent nearly 50 million on Eric Martel from Como, who's almost a perfect defensive midfielder. Finally, we continued the love for Argentina and Giovanni's, as Lo Celso arrived on loan from Tottenham. The absolute mad lad scored a brace on his debut versus Bologna. 22 match days in, and we had a 5-point lead in the table. And with a trifecta of fixtures involving Inter coming up within 8 days, the dynamic of the standings could dramatically change. Firstly, it was the Coppa Italia quarterfinal, where Marcus Thuram opened the affair with a 4th-minute goal, assisted by João Cancelo, who made a controversial return to Inter. But everyone deserves a second chance, just not a third.
Tornerò a giocare di là. Io spero veramente.
For ourselves, Konate sold, although he was having an okay first season. Then we had a counterattack, but Raspadori was crunched from behind, and Renato Sanchez saw red. A half with a man advantage, but it seemed tough to beat Sommer. So, a quadruple change was made, and that's when the fireworks began. A poorly cleared corner landed to Lindstrom, and he found Di Lorenzo for the equalizer. Inter were getting tired, so we let Lindstrom cook again, as he found Giovanni Simeone for the lead. With key players becoming exhausted for Inter, a loss here will be devastating. And that result was confirmed by Szoboszlai. We moved on to the semi-finals. The difference between the two sides' fitness showed in the Serie A encounters. An early far strike and solid defending led to a 1-0 win. A gut punch for Inter, who lost all the wind in their sails. At the Diego Armando Maradona Stadium, we put 4 past them, confirming the new owners of Inter being Napoli. 6 points gained, putting us 11 ahead of them and 7 above second. Now the next month of fixtures. We faced PSV in the playoff round, and with Simeone scoring first, an easy day was expected. That was until Murray got injured. Is this guy allergic to European knockouts? Luckily, I had a keeper on the bench. Sepe, who was signed for free in the summer, as he was homegrown. Born in the metropolitan town of Naples named Torre del Greco, he got to return to his boyhood club where he previously stayed for 10 years. He conceded 7 minutes after being subbed on. Maybe not a dream story, but he was our only keeper we could use in the Champions League despite having 4. Luckily, we won the second leg at home thanks to our January additions. In the round of 16, we were drawn with Juventus. Our 1-1 earlier in the campaign was frustrating, but the two clubs had European history in 1989. They were competing in the UEFA Cup, now known as the Europa League, where Maradona's Napoli came back from a 2-0 deficit to defeat Juventus in extra time and move to the semis, where they'd eventually win it all. Present day, we didn't need to concede first or lose the opening leg, as Antonio Silva headed in our first shot. Our pressure was intense, as not long after, Lindstrom was tripped in the box and Anthony Taylor, with a hair transplant, pointed to the spot. Lo Celso would ding Szczęsny, which shows he's the true Argentine GOAT. It's not like Juventus wasn't dangerous, but Sepe made a brilliant save to keep them out. 10 minutes into the second half, it proved to be the day of Giovanni, this time Simeone, who made it 3. Juventus would eventually score, but not this penalty, as Sepe was proving to be a hero. The home tie ended 4-1, and away from home, Juventus were decent, but not better than us, as we defeated them in their yard 2-1, and overall 6-2 on aggregate. But that's as good as it got for us in Europe. We faced Barcelona in the quarters, and Xavi's team was too much to handle in the Camp Nou. A 4-0 loss was way too much to overcome. During this period, Hugo Gonzalez was injured, and he was having a great season for us, although, like several others, the first half form slowed down in the new year. That was clearly showcased in February and March, where in 6 Serie A matches, we only earned 6 points, including another damn loss to Frosinone. Our once large gap on the table shrunk to 3 with 8 matches remaining. In Europe, Sepe played, but in the league, I used Elia Caprile, as I forgot to loan him out and thought this was a good opportunity for him. 5 matches and 9 goals conceded later, I switched to Sepe until Murray returned. In those, we got back into form. Catanzaro were smoked 4-0, while Juventus were shown up once again with a Giovanni Simeone hat trick. He was delivering performances I wasn't expecting in the last third of the campaign. Even better, AC Milan lost to Empoli, giving us a 6-point advantage. Both of us won on matchday 33 and 34 to keep that gap. The good news for us was that they had to deal with Chelsea in the Europa League semi-final, although we had the scary thought of Mourinho's favorite fetish, humiliating Chroocini.
4 hours later.
He will have nothing to say. Nothing after I humiliate him.
It's the Coppa Italia semi-finals, which is where we lost a year ago. However, unlike then, this was stress-free. Lo Celso scored in both legs, while Raspadori and Lindstrom grabbed a goal each to win 4-1 on aggregate. That also included a Luigi Sepe clean sheet. The final would be against Lazio, which was placed a couple days before AC Milan in our penultimate Serie A fixture. If the gap remains at 6 and they beat us, we would have to draw Torino on the final day to win the Scudetto. The boys did what they had to do versus Empoli, as Nico Gonzalez returned to form, grabbing a brace. Granted, Empoli helped with Pizzella seeing red early on. Now, it was up to Ancelotti's AC Milan. After defeating Chelsea in Europe, they had Lazio on Sunday, and they lost. Marusic and former Milan defender Romagnoli pushed them 9 points back, which means all we had to do was draw Spezia. With a sole point needed in 3 games and a cup final in a couple days, I rotated, and it would be enough. Despite conceding this, a Konate brace earned us the victory. Napoli are champions of Italy once more, and finally, Mr. Chroocini has won the Scudetto. The club didn't have to wait 33 years this time, but it has been 38 years since they earned the Italian double. Didier Deschamps' Lazio struggled in the standings, as this was the only opportunity at European football for them. However, a Swedish man would take that away very quickly. Get the second ball, Kvara, dance on them. What a cross. Kien. Simeone of Giovanni's. Go. Baldanzi corner kick, nothing's gonna come from there. Yay! Baldanzi with the assist. What a bargain transfer, as that was his 7th for us. But we weren't finished with Lazio. In the second half, Maradona showed he was him. Maradona! And Torino would get the fourth as we won the Italian double. 2 trophies in a matter of days, cementing a historic season in Naples. Most beautifully of all, Sepe was able to keep a clean sheet in the final. Despite selling last year's top scorer, we ended up improving overall. Not everyone performed to expectations, but the ones who did pushed us over the line. No, you aren't seeing things. We signed Dominik Szoboszlai.
Why not?
With 9 goals and 4 assists, and these awesome attributes, replacing him after his loan was going to be a challenge. However, after failing to sign Fabio Vieira, I decided to search the Hungarian to see if he was in Unai's plans. He was transfer listed. So, throw in an 85 million bid and all the wages for him to permanently join. Now, how could we afford him? Plus, we sold several others. Raspadori and Di Lorenzo might raise some eyebrows, although the attacker was more of a squad player, and with his 56 million transfer, we were able to finish off the rest of our business. Colpani from Monza with a 7.25 million bid, Orsolini at 12.5, and Endrick for 11 million. Not sure what accountant overlooked that. With Di Lorenzo, we fell out, and he wanted to explore his contract options. So, I was about to send him to Roma, until Barca arrived with a better bid. Rest in peace, Mourinho. Finally, Justin Che would come in to back up Coyote. In net, I did want Diogo Costa to replace Murray, but Saudi giveth, and Saudi taketh away for 1.2 million euros a week. Is it better to leave out on a high? Spalletti did in 2023, but should Chroocini have done the same after one-upping him for the double? Well, it's difficult to do that when his ambitions go one step higher. Become European champions. Of course, we still want to retain the league, but a difficult start was turning Chroocini into Neo, taking each challenge and winning 8 of the first 10. Unfortunately, there was a Mourinho-sized blemish. They were firing to begin the season and took a 2-0 lead on us. However, we were able to come back with a penalty and Argentine dark arts with Nico Gonzalez's bicycle kick going in off Dybala. Sadly, Mourinho's 18th attempt at humiliation came into fruition as Darmian scored from outside the box with his weak foot. Roma would slow down, but somehow stayed within reach of the top. The league phase of the Champions League looked to be good on paper. We had a fair amount of winnable matches, and only 2 I was really concerned about, yet the campaign didn't go as anticipated. Well, that's not entirely true. We did defeat Shakhtar Donetsk. Manchester City at the Etihad was one of the games where a loss wouldn't stun me. Their Premier League reign would extend to 6 consecutive triumphs, including the previous season where they won on the final day versus Liverpool with 2 goals in the closing 10 minutes. Yet Torino was able to pierce through them with 2 headers, stunning the Champions League finalists. Following were 3 German clubs. Not sure why we couldn't get some variety. I expected the wins to continue, but boy, I was wrong. At Leverkusen, we had a glorious opportunity wasted in the 6-yard box. On the other side, Boniface casually struck this. Torino running to him and showing the space to shoot was very nice of him. Boniface would bang in another 18-yarder on the other side of the pitch. I don't know if we used all of our luck versus Manchester City, as Endrick couldn't score a one-on-one, the first loss, and Borussia Mönchengladbach was looking similar. We actually scored, but so did our opponents. 3 in an hour, which made me look like a moron with Kvara and Nico on the bench. Upon entering the pitch, their presence was felt straight away, with Nico winning a pen and Kvara smacking it in. We were inching closer to an equalizer, but the ball wasn't going in, and when it did, it was disallowed. That didn't deter us, as past added time, Coyote's cross found Kvara, and he equalized. Still a frustrating result, especially because with soon-to-be Bundesliga winners RB Leipzig and their Kylo Ren-inspired tactic. In the 86th minute, Murray somehow allowed this from Zaywald, which was probably powerful, but come on, man. We don't give up though, and Nico got to his spot. Both posts, while Simeone loves himself a miss. Another loss, and with Barcelona next, top 8 was looking impossible. Last year's Champions League winners did eliminate us in that run, yet we did defeat them at home, and in this rematch, they used that formation. Nothing to mention until the latter 45, and this Murray kick will be the beginning of the party. 3 first-time touches led to Nico grabbing us the lead. Straight away, Barca switched to match our 4-3-3. That was no problem for Nico, who cut into midfield to find Koplani's head, leading to Simeone rounding Peña. That should be that. For some teams, this would shift the momentum, but not when Nico Gonzalez is feeling the way he is. The Argentine absolutely danced on his opponents. Barca scored another long shot. You've seen a lot of those go in, and the same can be said about corners. Antonio Silva would get our 4th, confirming a gigantic victory over Barca. Both Champions League finalists were defeated, but please no more German clubs. The table was looking good, but 6 points were needed in the remaining 2 matches. So being down by 2 at halftime versus Inacio's Goons nearly caused me to cancel my February spa session. Despite throwing the bottle and summing off Matias Oliveira, nothing changed. That's when I thought, let's do the 4-3-3, but different. Our 3 strikers versus their 3 center backs. Overloading the box and throw-ins impacted them straight away with Giovanni Simeone. 15 minutes left and 2 were needed, so who better to call than the bald Don. A draw would still be bad, but in the 95th minute, another throw-in led to Coyote, whose deflected shot landed on Endrick's boot. Onside, and the winner. We got away with that. Top 8 could go down a goal difference. So against Maccabi Haifa.
So here's Big 8.
Those 8 goals were enough, as we booked our tickets to the round of 16. Rewinding a few weeks back though, we had the Supercopa in China. Regardless, we defeated Lazio in the semi-final, leading to a battle with AC Milan. Not the most prestigious competition, but a trophy is a trophy. We've had crazy battles with Milan in Season 1, and this had the same vibes. It started amazingly with Clara giving us a 2-goal advantage. Milan were nowhere to be found, but in the second, they noticed we didn't have a player on top of the box for corners. They missed this opportunity, but we didn't adjust, leading to another chance where with some extra work, Pulisic scored. It was beginning to unravel, as in the next 5 minutes, we conceded 2, which were fairly preventable. Yet, we got what others don't, grit, or how the Italians say,
grinta, sweat, blood.
Nico made it level, although we nearly threw it away. So why don't we actually do it in extra time by letting De Catalare score twice in about 70 seconds? That deficit was too much, especially for Endrick. How? As Milan lifted the Supercopa. Let's return to my favorite pastime, roasting Mourinho. His Roma were 2 points behind us, although we had a game in hand. Yet he was receiving his flowers from the Italian media, with them being all positive about him. That was despite the Italian FA handing him 2 warnings this season for his comments. At the pre-match press conference, I told him he'd be brought back to reality. I may have said some other things too. Mourinho had nothing to say, but 4 goals later, he had a lot on his plate. For all that, his team did cause Murray to get injured again. On the positive, the Serie A form was pretty good. After a loss to Juventus in November, we went on a run of 14 games without a defeat. We also made a few big transfers to solidify our team for Europe. Boubacar Kamara would be the big one, as we spent a lot of excess funds on him. I won't be here long term if there are repercussions. I also brought in some margins for 26 million, since I wanted someone better than Barrios, who hasn't developed. The Spaniard would be sold to Udinese for 10 mil. With Maxime Esteve leaving for 30+ million, Jakob Iol continued the Udinese train to fill up our squad. The quadruple was no longer possible, but we could win a treble, although 2 quick goals from Inter in the Coppa Italia quarters quickly vanquished that dream. Sepe was filling in, but I think retirement was on his mind. To be fair, there's nothing he could do on Inter's third. We had hoped by making it 3-2, but Barella shut that down straight away, officially killing the treble dream. Oh, piss off! We have someone that has business with Unai, and it certainly isn't me. Liverpool was pretty similar to what you'd expect, outside of Van Dijk being in Saudi Arabia. The first leg was at Anfield, so as always, the plan was to keep it close. Who am I kidding? Salah scored in the 2nd minute. Liverpool were vulnerable, but as is common with Endrick, he does so brilliantly until the big chance. That's where the ball Don comes in, as he receives a pass from Sobo, and the Italian does the rest.
That's nice!
nasty! At the end of the day though, this is Liverpool at Anfield, and even if it requires a tad bit of luck, they'll find a way. 2-1 isn't bad. However, the air was off today, as David Carmo does this, and Simeone takes complete advantage. Despite a scare from Gravenberch, we got a 2-2 draw. While Liverpool are strong, maybe they haven't been the same since that bottling last May. Added to that, they were missing Salah for the second leg.
I'm more worried about you. Thank you.
We were starting off great until we left Konate wide open from a free kick. Moments later, they would score again, making that first miss look awful. But the game was long, and we responded with an open Nico Gonzalez. Changing to a positive mentality at the break seemed like the right call, with Baldanzi whipping up a cross to Nico Gonzalez. All squared, and we weren't turning back.
Kvara's open.
Simeone! Let's actually give the ball to more competent players.
Kvara, Baldanzi. Let's go!
What a performance as we advanced past Liverpool. Who'd we face in the quarterfinals? We actually made the Champions League semis, and not only that, but we earned a third victory over Juventus on the following weekend, which had the Serie A table looking like this. Yeah, we weren't in first. A bad draw before the Juventus tie versus Salernitana, plus a pair of losses in late February, pushed us behind. We didn't have an easy end to the season either, with Inter right before our semi-final and AC Milan right after. At the San Siro, it wasn't looking good. Not only did they score in the first minute, but Denzel Dumfries was having the match of his life. With his brace, it was 3-1 for the Nerazzurri. Kvara was able to pull some magic out of nothing, but with my entire defense swapped out, we couldn't prevent a fourth, meaning the ball was in Inter's court. Why would I say that? Well, compare their end of season schedule to ours, and especially AC Milan's. Before that concludes, let's take on Jurgen Klopp's Real Madrid. When Jurgen Klopp left the Reds for Los Blancos, it was a shock to many since it was a very un-Jurgen Klopp thing to do. I guess he really wanted to manage Jude Bellingham. However, he didn't bring over his entire staff, which includes Pep Lenders. That's where we came in, as Pep would replace our assistant manager, who apparently was a former gym teacher. Plus, this was Endrick's reunion with Real Madrid. Would Florentino's biggest mistake come back to bite Klopp's men? No, Endrick was crap, and so was the entire attack. We had one shot, and prior to halftime, Militao would take the lead. At the end of the day, it would be the names you know who would haunt us. Vinny, just like that. I needed this leg to be tight, and we finally created a chance thanks to Orsolini. But Simeone blew it, and on the other side, Real Madrid made it 3. Maybe I should have gone cautious, but what was looking like a brilliant season turned into a huge what if in the second leg. I made a switch, and that was Martel in for Camara, and the German nodded the corner in the 9th minute. For some, this would inspire a comeback. For us, it just led to fraudulence. No, watch. He's wide open. They got a second off of this, increasing their advantage to 4. We were trying, but it wasn't enough. So I went to the 4-2-2 all-out attack because what was there to lose? With Kvara being gifted a goal prior to half and nearly getting another, it inspired hope. The only thing needed was Endrick to show up. We tried and got so freaking close, but with this ruled out for offside and 2 goals coming far too late, we lost 5-4 on aggregate and missed out on the Champions League final. Is it better to leave on a high? If you can't match what you did previously, maybe. And while we did make a great run in Europe, that becomes a distant memory when time flies by. In Serie A, we were leading 1-0 against AC Milan on the 36th match day. A win still gave us a chance. But here's a lesson. Make sure you have a player marking on top of the box since Okafor's shot was deflected in. I made the same mistake against the same team. That resulted in a draw, making sure we went 0-4 in trophies. Despite earning more points than last season, Milan and Inter leveled up out of nowhere. I'm sure some will have good memories thinking back to the double, but maybe that's where it should have ended. Through this frustration, Mr. Chroocini decided to resign from Napoli in shocking fashion. That's not where this story ends, however. The 2026 World Cup in North America came and went, and Italy had a huge disappointment, losing to France in the round of 32. Chroocini saw an opportunity and declared interest in the job, even before Vincenzo Italiano even left. Apparently, this came off as nothing short of desperate. However, after Norway won the World Cup, Italiano quit his post at Italy and the job became available. We're becoming Italy manager. Wait, De Zerbi got the job? As expected, Mr. Chroocini became Italy manager. In this universe, the Azzurri didn't pull out of the bidding for Euro 2028 as they were the hosts. This was going to be a challenge, but could we cement our name into Italian history? He's coming, Rome! Gianluigi Donnarumma, Bastoni, like 8 central midfielders, and more. I saw promising things with the Italians. So let's time skip to 2028, just after the club seasons, where we had a squad to decide. There were a couple conundrums. It didn't involve the keepers or defenders. That was very easy to choose. Midfield-wise, I thought our depth was set up beautifully. Barella, Locatelli, Tonali, Rovella, the Torino boys Ricci and no longer Pabega, plus Pellegrini and Pessina. Chef's kiss.
Oh, beautiful.
Unfortunately, at the end of the season, Barella got injured and was set to miss the Euros, while Pessina, who seemed perfect for the left side of my midfield, was also going to be absent. Luckily, it was still an incredible group, but with Pabega unfit until the start of the tournament, I decided to use Zaniolo in central midfield on attack. For strikers, we used one pressing forward and a trequartista. Unfortunately, due to injuries, the offensive choices were quite weak on paper. Lorenzo Luca would be called to be used if we really needed a goal, but the man leading from the front would be Moise Kean. Currently at Dortmund, I wasn't so sure about him, especially with only 6 strikes in the Bundesliga, but he had the right attributes. In the trequartista role, thankfully Chiesa got injured, as I would have caused some more outrage in Italy because I was going to call up Cancellieri and Raspadori anyways. Wait, no Baldanzi? In the friendlies before the tournament, we defeated Belgium post their golden generation, but they were still a top 10 nation in the game. For Denmark, I rotated my team to see what the other guys had to offer. It was rough. Despite equalizing the game after switching to the 4-2-2, Jesper Lindström pulled this out of his ass, and we lost. That made my decision a lot easier on who would start for the Euros. The group draw was rather kind, with Turkey, Croatia, and Austria, and as in 2021, the opener will be us and Turkey. For our starting 11, Donnarumma in net, Di Marco starting over Udogie, Bastoni partnering with Luis Felipe, Cambiaso at right back, Ricci the regista returning to his dominant role, with the box-to-boxes of Sandro Tonali and Manuel Locatelli, speared ahead by Zaniolo, with Raspadori and Moise Kean up front. Also, if I pronounce his name differently multiple times, don't blame me, blame him! There's multiple videos out there.
And Moise Kean.
And he said his name differently.
Moise Kean.
In each one. Now, I don't remember if Turkey were dark horses for this tournament, but like in 2021.
Ricci to Kane. Raspadori, Kane. Moise Kean opens the Euros up with a goal.
As the game continued, it was seemingly ours to lose, but after an incredible boot by the Turkish keeper, they almost scored a brilliant goal. But they couldn't stop this corner from Di Marco, bulleted home by Bastoni. With Donnarumma securing a clean sheet despite the boos of the San Siro, we earned our first 3 points of the championships. The biggest challengers of the group was Croatia, and they were next. Coming off a massive victory over Austria, it wouldn't be easy. The only changes to our lineup was playing my guy Pabega instead of Zaniolo, and nothing really happened. With a few tweaks including the sub of Cancellieri for Raspadori, a highlight occurred.
Free kick though, Di Marco.
Oh, not yet.
A lot of space for Cambiaso. Gets it behind Cancellieri, tough angle, but can he find someone? Moise Kean, let's go!
Croatia's back 5 wasn't creating much, and nearly after scoring a brilliant goal, we left with a narrow win. First place was basically guaranteed, so a completely rotated 11 for Austria was what the fitness coach ordered. They were causing more difficulties than I would like, but the hero of Italy would pop up once again.
Get to Kane. Moise Kean!
That was the difference maker, as Austria and Turkey were eliminated while we conceded nothing. This is how the round of 16 bracket looked, which brought a contest with Patrick Schick and the Czechs. All things considered, it looked like we were on the correct side of the bracket. Pioli was a Czech Republic manager, to the relief of some Milan fans. Changes to our starting 11 were Di Lorenzo in for Cambiaso, Zaniolo ahead of Pobega, and Cancellieri taking the trequartista's spot. The Czechs weren't highly rated, and it showed with the chances we were creating. Still, we weren't on target, and Patrick Schick would try to bring back the memories of Euro 2020.
Make Kolar boot it up and give it back to... No, oh no, Patrick Schick. Patrick Schick.
It's Patrick Schick! Unbelievably!
That was their chance, which they would rue.
Oh, Zaniolo wins the ball, Cancellieri. He scores! Tonali. What a cross... Well, not a what a cross, but... Richie! Richie the Regista! Free kick. No way DiMarco's scoring this. I mean, the goalkeeper looked like he ran into the post.
That was it for the Czechs, as the Italian Stallions had their shooting boots on. Following that, Denmark defeated Ireland, who earlier in this tournament nearly knocked out England. With the result against the Danes prior to the Euros, I was worried. Even with a stronger team, we were missing Richie the Regista due to suspension. This was how the team was set up, with Cambiaso back in for Di Lorenzo, Pellegrini ahead of Tonali, and Rovella playing as the Regista. To start things off, DiMarco had another chance for brilliance.
Scored a brilliant one last game. Can he somehow do it again?
My friend of Denmark was nearly vindicated, as Damsgaard hit the post and really should have made it 1-0.
Lose the ball, but can we... Okay, yeah, we'll get it back. What? How do you let him get onto the end of his own header?
In the 36th minute, they scuffed a shot, and after yelling at my players for playing like... let me get my translator.
Imbarcare a poppa.
DiMarco's free kick does not end up going to anyone, but we get possession right back. Rovella. In behind to Zaniolo. Zaniolo around the keeper! Golazzo!
Damsgaard then wasted another opportunity, which once more gave Zaniolo a chance to step up.
Pellegrini to DiMarco, in behind to Zaniolo. Zaniolo, one more? Ah! Let's go!
He would soon cement a moment no Italian would forget.
We make it 3. Moise Kean to Zaniolo. Zaniolo on his own. Zaniolo. Oh my god! Zaniolo, this guy is class.
We moved on to the Euro semi-final without conceding a goal, all in front of our home fans too. Everything was coming together. Nothing could stop this team from doing... Where's all this noise coming from? Our biggest test yet, the 2026 World Cup finalists. There's nothing more that they would want than defeating us to avenge that final where Italy won on penalties in front of a packed out Wembley. After an incredibly short press conference for the amount of journalists that were present, Tonali and Richie returned to face this English side. Eddie Howe was their guy, and while Chalba was a bold choice for central midfield, England are always favorites. They got Phil Foden, but we have Zaniolo.
Okay, it's cleared. Can we counter? Cancellieri, he finds Zaniolo. Zaniolo, brilliant dribbling. Getting by through the whole England team. He whips it into Moise Kean. Oh, Moise Kean! Oh, crap. Moise Kean! Great cross. Moise Kean with a great attempt off the bar. What's the keeper doing? Is that Ramsey or is that Pickford?
Halftime arrived, and so far, so good. Body was the song of choice for the Euros 7 years prior. But we decided to go with the other song that pops up when you search Spaghetti Mafia.
Cambiaso to Locatelli. Cambiaso given space again. He finds Cancellieri. Tonali makes it 2-0.
England had to risk it all to get back into the game, but despite Saka scoring late, VAR said nah, giving us another clean sheet as we moved on to the Euro final. On the other side of the bracket, Portugal had to go through a lot as they defeated Netherlands, Germany, and Belgium to reach this stage. On their end, they'd be missing Ruben Neves, who got a red card versus Belgium, but they'd also miss Nuno Mensch, who was out with a gashed leg. The press conference had a lot less journalists compared to the England game, which makes so much sense. Now let's get together and pour a cold one for Allegri, just because. Our lineup for the final was exhausted, but the only change I made was Di Lorenzo on for Cambiaso. With a scorching 31 degrees Celsius at the San Siro, we were ready. Portugal's lineup was strong for the most part. They had some technically talented players, although the wingback position was interesting, and they would do something weird with them later on.
But we'll find out. There's a highlight off kickoff, and we are the ones that are starting off with the ball. And behind to Cancellieri. 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 He scores! 16 seconds in. Cancellieri shocks the Portuguese and the San Siro erupts. And immediately Portugal swapped their fullbacks around. That was the weird thing. Hopefully we can win this header here. They don't have the most dangerous of target men up front. Oh no, João Felix wins the ball. João Felix gets stopped by Donnarumma to Don. Why did they swap Delo and Nuno Tavares? Why? Di Lorenzo whips it in though. Cancellieri. Penal! Was that a push? The referee says yes. 34 minutes in, Cancellieri's gonna step up and try to give himself a brace. And he does! 2-0 in the final. They get possession right back to us. Di Marco going forward. Ricci to Tonali to Zaniolo. Oh my gosh, a disgusting tackle. Wow. Mateus Nunes gets sent off. This, ladies and gentlemen, is all but wrapped up. To be able to do something I don't think any real-life manager have done. And win the Euros. No goals conceded. Let's go. Congratulations to Italy.
Maybe not the best final in history, but that's all good as we celebrated Italy winning Euro 2028 at home. Which brings the end to Chroocini's story. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that alternate retelling of Chroocini's story. It was meant to come out much earlier, but one of the premiere profiles nearly made my computer explode. It was fun revisiting the original videos and seeing the difference in my voice. Also, apologies for the uploads not being as consistent as they used to be. Granted, some of the uploads have been 2 videos in 1, which should be the same for the Chroo Alexandra finale, but we'll see. Thank you to my current Patreons, Dex, Indigo Light 735, Chimichanga 411, Lars Passman, Daryl Dow, and Nathan with a dot. Thank you for the support. If you sign up to the $5 tier, you get access to any of the saves I've done, including the Napoli beta and FM22's Torino. I hope to have the next video out as soon as possible, but until then, take care.